Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's go over what is happening to the stock, what we can expect moving forward on what has been a pretty brutal last 4 days of trading for NVIDIA stock. But I do believe that we're pretty damn close to a bottom, if not already there. And I do think, again, overall, I think we're closer to a bottom than not. But yeah, all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc., I do share my thoughts every single day with the markets, or with my members about the market, essentially as the market is trading live every single day. Definitely check it out. The link is down below for the YouTube membership, just $3 a month. You get access to all my thoughts on Tesla stock and sometimes other stocks. Like today, I shared my thoughts on Apple stock. Or for $5 a month, you get access to everything I just said, plus NVIDIA daily updates with my members. Again, as it's trading, as the market was painful this morning, I was sharing updates nonstop with my members, reassuring them that I still believe that we're at or damn close to a bottom, at least temporarily, at least temporarily. But anyways, just jump into it. NVIDIA with unfortunately another painful day, ultimately still down 2% on the day, closing at $133.23, which of course compared to the market is going to be a bit of an underperformance, right? As NVIDIA has suffered a pretty substantial drawdown ever since the CES event, where it's pretty much within the last 4 trading days. Even just to today's close, has dropped about 13%, but to the lowest point this morning was down 15% in 4 trading days. That is pretty substantial. A stock like this moving like that is pretty wild, but it is what it is. And this is, again, not financial advice. This is just my opinion, but this is not the time to panic, right? This is not where you panic. This is where you're supposed to be greedy, if anything. I know I am. I already have shares, but I'm just, I'm selling cash ticket puts, potentially buying more shares, right? So, let's see how this plays out. But ultimately, the way I look at it is, it's pretty simple. Again, I'm trying to make my trading and my analysis on the charts honestly as simple and streamlined as possible, because the less noise, the better. And it's really simple stuff. Ultimately, it comes down to this. So what do we have? We have this massive trend line that has obviously acted as a massive area of support, right? We've got pretty close here. Now we're pretty much right at it once again, which is pretty much parallel to the upward trend line up here, right? And we've been pretty much zigzagging in between this overall zone for quite some time. So now we are essentially at a massive area of what in theory should be a massive area of demand and supply, or demand, right? And you have to remember, even back when we were over here, we had that false breakdown for that head and shoulders pattern, also a massive area of demand, and look what it did, right? We pumped up pretty aggressively from there not too long after. So we're pretty much right back into that same area of demand, and so far so good. Clearly the bull stepped up. The candle doesn't look that bad, right? Now there's some work to do. I'll give you my levels that I want to see it, recapture and whatnot, but not looking too bad. Not looking too. It could be worse, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It could be worse. So moving forward, what does this mean, right? I want to see NVIDIA recapture about 134-ish, right? I want to see 134 recaptured. If we can recapture 134, which we already are doing post hours, that'll be great. I want to see this area that we obviously had, a nice area of support that we had back here, and even resistance and whatnot, all of these levels over here. I want to see it turn back into support. I don't want to see it turn into resistance. I want to see it turn back into support. That's probably the most important thing I want to see to give me more confidence in the bulls. That should be a pretty good sign. Again, PPI tomorrow, CPI Wednesday could be the deciding factor, but let's see, right? We are below the market bias, but the issue with the market bias that I honestly should mention, I guess, is the fact that, NVIDIA's been sideways, right? Ultimately, despite the volatility, overall, it's still been sideways, right? Pretty much ever since all the way back here in October, early October, I should add, it's been sideways, and ultimately it's the same price that was back then, right? So despite the volatility and these sharp up moves and down moves, it's gone ultimately nowhere, right? So whenever you have a stock pretty much going sideways like this, these momentum, which is what they are, momentum bands, right? The market bias in my EMA cloud. Yeah, they're kind of useless. They're kind of useless, ultimately, unfortunately. I was hoping that this would be the case that gives us the momentum back up and then we follow up with it, but unfortunately it wasn't, and it seems like we're still going sideways for the most part. So I just want to add, they're a little bit useless. Don't put too much weight into them here, in my opinion. Anyways, so what else is there to look at, right? Again, 134, I do want to see that recaptured, but what I also like is the fact that the RSI is on the verge of being oversold, which is a good sign. I like when things are oversold, not overbought, right? At least as a buyer, right? That's good. We are pretty much oversold. Now, if I go to the 4-hour chart, we've nailed many bottoms on the NVIDIA using the 4-hour chart, right? And sometimes all you need is these, regression type bands, if you will, right? In this case, I'm using the Bollinger Bands, right? And you see every single time NVIDIA has matched oversold conditions with pretty much touching the bottom of the band or even going below the band, right? RSI plus the band, it's been pretty much more or less marked at the very least a temporary bottom, if not a pretty significant bottom, right? Same thing over here, right? Oversold. And now we're pretty much doing the same thing. Even despite today's closure, and pretty much, if you will, a quote unquote pump from today's low, we're still technically in oversold territories on the RSI. And the 4-hour is still pretty close to the bottom end of the Bollinger Band, right? So you have to understand that. We're just essentially doing the exact same things all these other times did back when they've marked, most of them, pretty decent bottoms, right? At least, some decent bottoms, right? Decent, significant bottoms. So we're pretty much there again. Like, we're doing the exact same thing once again. And this is kind of what you do in a sideways market. When a stock is ultimately overall going sideways, you pretty much just ping pong up and down between the more or less overbought zone to now the, oversold zone, right? I mean, look at this. We were overbought, oversold here, bottom Bollinger Band. We pumped up and we came to the 4-hour overbought Bollinger Band and overbought RSI. Cool. Next, we had a nice little oversold condition here, small oversold condition, right? And then we pumped up to the opposite direction. Great. And then we pumped up to the opposite direction. Oversold, oversold. Great. Pretty much right to the opposite direction. Overbought, overbought. Great. And then we pretty much did the exact opposite. Came back down. This one was a slight anomaly where we didn't get that crazy pump back up, but we still put in a temporary bottom, right? Still got some bounce from it. But the more significant one was, of course, all the way down here where we put in a major bottom. And what did we do? Came back to the oversold, overbought territory. And then we came back down, kind of did the opposite of what we did here, but here instead had that little bull flag, and then we broke out. And again, overbought. Now we're oversold. How much more do you need really, ultimately, right? It's just... it's sometimes it can really be that simple, especially in a stock or a market in general, but in this case a stock that's for the most part going sideways. And I mean, it is what it is, right? It kind of is what it is. This is why, pretty much when we were I think when we were still at 129 or maybe 130, I sold a cash secured put because my indicators are telling me, hey, we're doing the exact same thing all these other times did. Time to, sell a cash secured put because, it's a little bit safer, but nonetheless, I already have shares. I'm not in a rush to buy more shares. And if my cash secured put ends up me being in the money somehow by this, I think I sold it for next week, but nonetheless, so be it. Then I'll buy more shares. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But again, that's just sometimes, you don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to overcomplicate things, right? That's sometimes all she wrote. Another thing you can potentially pay attention to is the fact that we had this massive trendline breakout. Remember this one? Remember this massive trendline breakout we've talked about before? We had that breakout, then we had that nice little bull flag, and we kept retesting that breakout, and then we went up. Remember that? Well, we're kind of retesting it this morning, right? We pretty much tagged it once again, and so far we bounced off of it, which is thumbs up, right? That's good news. So far so good as well. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see how this plays out. I mean, it's hard to say for sure, right? It's hard to say for sure. Ultimately, NVIDIA is in a sideways, market, but I mean, man, with a stock like this, it's hard for it to go. I don't know, man. It's hard for this to think that this stock won't actually get a significant bounce pretty soon. It feels difficult. Now, if we start losing important levels, if we start losing today's low, if we start losing like 127, okay, you know what? Less convincing. I'll be honest, a little bit less convincing. I'll probably sell like pretty long dated cover calls against my shares at that point and hedge, right? Less convincing for sure. But as of right now, I don't see why you would expect that to happen. I would expect this massive area of support that's pretty much held like many multiple times to continue doing that until proven otherwise. So those are the good signs, and that's kind of what I expect. Now, if NVIDIA does recapture 134, I ultimately would want to see it make its way back up. And at the very least, if you want to count this as a potential dead cat coming up, at the very least, I'd want to see it move back up to about the mid 140s, potentially even 150. That would be that quote unquote dead cat bounce if this ends up being that. But I don't actually think this will be that, mainly because we did set, we are setting ultimately higher highs and higher lows. You can make an overall argument. So what you can potentially do is go from this Fibonacci down here, and you can see, we kind of came into the smart money zone, essentially, if you will, which is these green fibs, the 0.826 and the 786, I believe it is, right? And we actually are finding support around there, which is a pretty, you're essentially getting a deal, right? You're getting this massive move up, and now you're getting a retracement from this massive move up. And man, like this fib down here, the red one is good, but this one especially, you're getting like a massive deal on what in theory should be a bullish retracement. Again, I want to make it clear, obviously nothing is guaranteed. Maybe we do fall apart. Maybe this actually comes crumbling down. Always a possibility, but I'm not expecting it to unless proven otherwise, essentially is what I'm trying to say. Especially when you combine it with the market. The market, look at this, man. Also, the SPY, same exact Fibonacci level, bouncing so far almost to perfection while tagging the oversold bands on the daily charts. QQQ taking what was an area of all-time high previous former supply and so far turning into support, and also scraping the bottom of the barrel on the Bollinger Bands with the RSI oversold. Like, I don't know, man. I know there's a lot, it feels like there's some panic in the market and people think that that's it. Hey, it's time to crash. Maybe. I mean, it could be. It's just the indicators I see and the things that I'm looking at right now, it doesn't seem like it. Maybe CPI and PPI says otherwise. Maybe they'll come in and smack this market down very aggressively. I don't know. It's possible. It is possible. But I don't know. I don't see it right now. Like, again, I don't see it. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. I don't know. If you lose those levels, like I mentioned on NVIDIA, like 127 or something like that, could be a little bit concerning. Could be a little bit concerning. I won't lie. But we haven't. We haven't. And there's no reason to assume you will until you really do, ultimately. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. You get the news. You get the drift. That's kind of my thoughts overall. So yeah, let's take a quick look at options flow. See what's happening over here on NVIDIA. Maybe got some bullishness in towards the end of the day. Pretty mixed. More bears actually than bulls in terms of overall flow throughout the day. What you can see here in the morning, a lot of flow. The thing with this flow, and this is also why I don't follow options flow too much, is I always see a lot of bearish flow when the stock is tanking, especially at the low of the day. It's like very weird. And I see a lot of bullish flow when the stock is rising at the top of the day. It's just, I don't know. I don't really follow options flow very, aggressively. I'll be honest. Yeah, only 8 million confirmed bearish flow. Usually the chart's enough. Like, I don't really follow options flow that, religiously, I should say. Usually the chart could be more than enough to give you an idea as to what to expect for the most part. But yeah, so you guys know the levels I'm looking for, right? Another thing you can do is right here, you can see all the moving averages are converging together. So, you also would want to break above them, which would be somewhere around, 138, 139, 137, something like that. That $2-ish range would be nice to break back above as well. But again, with moving averages, you have to understand, we're going sideways. We're just zigzagging sideways ultimately. Moving averages are trend indicators. There's no trend. There's no trend right now. So they are ultimately useless, as we're kind of just like whipsawing back and forth between them nonstop. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.